Man, how are we? How are you doing? I believe everyone is coping and doing well. Uh, I don't know where you're watching or joining from, but I'm from Nigeria, and I'm going to say good evening to you. Okay, so welcome to Take My Hand webinar series. This is episode 6. Last week we discussed about the role of stakeholders in combating trafficking. So by the way, my name is Aiki Zigbana. This webinar is powered by Aiki Isaac Ibana Foundation. Yeah, so in case you missed last week and the previous episodes, you can kindly go to our pages, Aiki Isaac Ibana Foundation or Aiki Zigbana, and look through my timeline. You are going to see them, going to see the past webinars, and you can like, you can comment, you can share. Please do let me know what you think. If you have any suggestions, if you have any contributions, you can as well do that. So right now, I need to just hit the like buttons. If you can, just please do me a favor, hit the like button, type in your comments, and share to loved ones. For them to also join in and get value from this webinar. All right, so thank you so much. So today we are going to look at child labor and trafficking. All right, child labor and trafficking. Child labor and trafficking. So, what is child labor? First off, I want to actually say, you see, child labor and trafficking are usually interconnected. These are issues that are interwoven together. They involve the exploitation of children, basically. So both child labor and trafficking, they all both involve, taking advantage of children, exploiting children for the purpose of gain, right? Most people do that to gain. All right. So what's child labor? Child labor refers to the employment of children in any kind of work that deprives them of their childhood. Employment of children in any kind of work that deprives them of their childhood. Right? This interferes with their ability to attend school, and is harmful to their physical and mental development. Anything that makes a child stays on the street, selling, moving from one point to another, staying up late hours just to make gains, for some parents, or for some tax masters, or some guardians, depriving them. They don't go to school, they don't get to have their childhood for themselves. They don't play. They are just restricted. They are confined. That's child labor. You are laboring the child, as the name implies. You are laboring the child. You're limiting the child's ability to express their childhood. You turn the child into an adult, at their early stage. You make them labor longer and heavier than necessary. Give them hard work that will make them, sometimes depressed. Tasks that adults are meant to be doing, you give to the children. You over-labor them, you burden them, so you put a heavy laden on them, so they are not able to operate as children anymore. They begin to forcefully fit into adulthood. So that's what child labor is. I'm taking time to, actually taking our time to explain and break this down, right? So, this has been a major issue in our society today. It's all over the world, not just in my home country, but all over the world, especially in Africa, where, some parents believe that children should be, making money for them or fetching money for them. Some guardians believe that because it's not their child, they can treat the child anyhow. They can place the child under, conditions, stringent work conditions. A job that an adult is meant to do, you assign it to the child, forcefully beat them up, you threaten them, you suppress them, you make them do it under harsh conditions, right? So this tends to affect their mental and physical, development. So these are the effects of child labor. It affects the child's physical and mental development and abilities. A child that is meant to be bright, all of a sudden, because they're overwhelmed with, the work and the hard, work that has been placed on them, they become dull. Their minds become, uh, not productive. They don't reason very well. They don't think properly. They start becoming timid. They can't make decisions. They can't think properly. They begin to act like adults. They begin to act like one who is already grown, whereas they are just children. So this is very bad, very, very bad. In our society today, I've seen a situation whereby children are being, sent out to the streets to go and beg, to go and do all manner of things, just to get one or two things, get some monetary gains, for parents. It's unfortunate, but that's what our society has turned into. So, child labor and trafficking. So, what are actually the causes of child labor? Number one, I'm going to say poverty. Poverty. Mental poverty, financial poverty, it can be a major cause of child labor, right? So the lack of education, that's illiteracy. A child whose parents or ward or guardian is an illiterate may not fathom that someone came around trying to deceive the child in a so-called outing of favors. They throw favors to the parents or the guardian or whatever the situation may be. Throw favors as baits. Oh no! I'm just gonna take him or her to stay with me for a month, for 3 months, for just a year. I'm going to take care of everything. Don't worry, I'm going to take care of their education. I'm going to put them in a handwork. They shall learn one trade or the other. And don't worry, everything will be fine. The child will be fine. And usually it's not the case. Unfortunately, when such children are being abducted or taken, it takes the intervention sometimes of the police, or the law enforcement to be able to get back that child, because they've already mentally brainwashed the child. They've made the child to believe, in some certain things that are not facts. They work on their psyche. They deceive them, they lure them, they coerce them into doing things that are meant for adults to do. So poverty and then lack of education. The next point is demand for cheap labor and goods. Some people would rather prefer, instead of employing a sales boy or girl who is matured, who is properly, onboarded, for employment, they prefer to go and take children of underage. Some of these children could be children of their relatives, brothers or sisters, in quote, and they use these children. These children don't have a resting time. They work, they wake up early, they sleep late, so in that manner, the people or the person that has abducted that particular child for the child exploitation, child labor, is gaining, because they are making monetary gains, while the child is suffering stunted growth, lack of sleep, most times hunger, and then harsh conditions, harsh living conditions, so in exchange for cheap labor and goods. The next one I'm going to talk about is lack of access to good medical care. Lack of access to good medical care. Some children who decide to hit the street by themselves because their parents are sick and there is no way out. They decide to take up adulthood at the early stage of their lives. They go out to hustle, in quote, to work in order to bring ends meet for their sick parents. So it could be one of the causes. So the next point is lack of parental care. I have noticed that most of these kids, most of the children that undergo child labor, sometimes may not be necessarily from their parents. It may be from third parties because their parents have been divorced, the home is broken, the father is on his own, the mother is on her own, but most likely and usually, most often, the children are usually with their mothers, right? With their mothers, and then she's trying to make ends meet in order to take care of the children. She goes out early and returns late, and these children also, in the bid to make out something for themselves, because what is being provided by their single parent is not enough, they fall in the hands of people who are going to take advantage of them and exploit them, right? So I've talked about child labor, and I've defined it, and I've spoken about the relationship between child labor and trafficking, and talked about the effects of child labor, the physical. It affects the child mentally and physically, all right? Affects their development, things like stunted growth. So I've talked about causes of child labor, trafficking. I said number one is poverty, lack of education, that's illiteracy, both for the child and their ward or their parent. Then demand for cheap labor and goods. I've spoken about lack of access to good medical care. And then the last point I said, lack of parental care, right? Most parents are very, very busy trying to make ends meet for the same children that they've left to be vulnerable, into the hands of exploiters and people who are going to take advantage of them. All right. So quickly, let's look at what trafficking, So trafficking, on the other hand, I said, refers to the recruitment, transportation, transfer, harboring, or receipt of children for the purpose of exploitation, right? So child trafficking, on the other hand, I said, it refers to the recruitment, transportation, transfer, harboring, or receipt of children for the purpose of exploitation. This can include sexual exploitation, right? Forced begging, domestic servitude, and forced marriage. Okay, all right. So sexual exploitation. A child, especially for the girl child, whom is just a child, not even up to a teenager, is being defied by an adult, sexually in exchange for some monetary gain. Forced begging. A parent or a guardian or send their wards out to send their children out to the street to beg and bring in money, so they could feed. So domestic servitude, you employ the services of an underage, to come serve you. Like I've said before, they don't have a life now. They don't enjoy their childhood. They can't sleep. There's no sleeping time, or rather, they sleep very late and wake up very early for years, and as long as that process continues, so they are depressed. Their mental ability is degrading and depreciating on a daily basis because of the hard task that they undergo on a daily basis. Forced marriage, you adopt a child, take the child into marriage. Sometimes parents do that. Some parents do that because the poverty has stricken them, and they want to get some fortunes out of that, and give out their children, especially for the girl child. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and talk about the solution. So how can we prevent this? There are some points that I'm going to portray here. Please, if you're watching, kindly hit the like button. Let me see your comments in the comment section right there, and kindly share it to people, friends, family and friends, so they could join in and listen. All right. So, solution. What can be the solution? Well, I think the government and the NGOs like ours, like we, IKES, Isaac Banner Foundation, can provide access to education and, so that people can be enlightened, all right? People can be enlightened, the children can be enlightened, they should know when they see possible signs, early signs of when someone is trying to exploit them or they are being trafficked, all right? Government, the government of any nation, and NGOs, non-governmental organizations can actually do that, in collaboration with relevant stakeholders, okay? Very, very important to curb these menace. The second point is for, to provide healthcare access, healthcare access. A child who is undergoing, especially for the girl child, they are early stage of puberty and probably, monthly flow of menses as it's where, sometimes they lack experience, or most times because they are children or just about to be teenagers, and you find people who mislead them. So but if there is good healthcare, parents, from the fact, these things are joined together, like educating people and making them to be literate of how to avoid this madness can also go a long way for them to know where and how to take care of their children especially when they are at puberty stage or approaching teenage age and all. Right. So the next point is to provide support to families and communities. By support, I mean financial support, mental support, economic support to families, to communities. Once in a while, time to time, there should be food. There should be shelter. There should be clothing. Basic needs, basic human needs, right? The basic needs: shelter, food, accommodation. For families, for communities, people should be able to reach out to families that are not doing well. A family that is, for instance, struggling to meet up with, maybe 2 square meal a day. NGOs and government individuals should be able to come up with packages that can help. Thank you very much, Mr. Nkane Moses. Thank you for joining in. Please kindly leave your comments and hit the like button, and also share to friends and family. Thank you for joining in. I appreciate it. So we're talking about child labor and child trafficking. So we're going to have to talk about the definition and the effect. We've talked about the causes, and right now we also discussed child trafficking, and right now we're talking about the solution, what you and me can do, as it were, to prevent these issues from happening. All right. So number one, we said government and NGOs and individuals, privileged individuals, can provide access to education, healthcare, and then support to families and communities. By support, I mean for the basic needs: food, accommodation, shelter. So that can go a long way to help people think properly and decide, and make decisive reasonings whenever they see early signs of child labor or trafficking. Right. So the next point I'm going to talk about is consumers. Consumers can actually play a major role by being aware of the products they purchase. The ones that are produced ethically and do not involve child labor or trafficking. What we're saying is, for instance, a bread factory. If a bread factory, if you notice a bread factory has children as the highest number of employers, that automatically puts a red flag for you to know that this is child labor and trafficking. So what does that imply? People stop buying their bread, so they go employ people properly. They onboard employers and your employees. I beg your pardon. So they onboard employees properly. So the work can be done. So people should stop buying their bread. For instance, for a bakery, and different other industries and organizations who, by way of default or by way of intention or by way of ignorance, indulge in this act, child labor and trafficking. People should stop patronizing them and bring it to their notice. That is, if peradventure they claim ignorance, right? So people should stop patronizing them so they can make the necessary amends. So you and me, the society, can also help each other. When you notice a family is struggling, in as much as they are putting in their best on a day-to-day basis, you come in as an individual. This shouldn't be left for just the government and non-governmental organizations like ours, IKEA's Isaac Ivana Foundation. We are just an entity. We are trying to do our best, but as an individual, you can play your part by providing support, financial support, providing access to medical care, providing education, literacy, educating people, letting them know, how their children and their works can be free from trafficking, child labor and trafficking. Thank you so much. I need you to hit the like button if you're watching, if you're getting value from this webinar. So for today, I'm going to draw the curtain for the webinar today. Please kindly leave your comments at the comment section. Let me know what you think. If you have any suggestions, if you have any contributions, if you have any issue or cases related to child labor and trafficking, you can reach out to us and contact us, right? So we can act properly in collaboration with relevant stakeholders like NAPTIP, Whatclef, and the rest of them. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. That brings us to the end of today's webinar. Like I said, we talked about child labor and child trafficking, the effects and the causes and the effects, and of course, the solution, how to combat it. Let me know if you have other ways to combat it. I'll be more than glad. So because we all are stakeholders in this, to see that our society is well nurtured, our society is doing well, our children grow in their best abilities and perform well. Because children are actually, there's a saying that children are the future of tomorrow. Yes, actually, because if children are not being taken care of, if almost all the children go into child labor and trafficking, who then is going to take over tomorrow, right? So thank you very much for playing your role and playing your part. Let's keep it going and see you next week. My name is Ike Zibana. Until I come away again next week. Thank you so much. All right. Thank you, Mr. Moses, for joining in. I appreciate you. Signing out.